Look, I know you've seen thousands of TikTok videos about how discipline beats motivation, but the thing that nobody's telling you is that discipline isn't enough either. In fact, discipline does beat motivation, but what beats discipline are systems. And I had to learn this the hard way in the process of completely rebuilding myself from the ground up in the last year. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly why motivation fails, why discipline isn't sustainable, and the 5-step framework I use to build systems that work, even when you feel like absolute garbage. And by the end of this video, you will never have to rely on feeling motivated again. So make sure to watch this video until the end. But before we get into it, my name is Nazar and I help students and young entrepreneurs build simple but effective consistency systems and improve performance. So if you want to get weekly insights from me personally, consider subscribing to my free email newsletter, link is in the description. Let's begin. Section 1. Why motivation is your enemy. Alright, so let's start with the brutal truth about motivation. It's designed to fail you. And here are 4 reasons why motivation isn't reliable. It's emotional, not structured. It's inconsistent, it depends on external factors, and it fades the moment things get hard. And guess what? Everything that's worth doing gets hard at some point. And I don't want to spend too much time on this telling you why motivation isn't that great because you already know it, but the thing I will say is that the main problem with motivation and this narrative that you have to feel good to do something is that it depends on your mood. And as we discussed, something that worth doing is hard and you're not always going to feel like it, because once you get past the I don't want to do this, this is too difficult part, you face another problem. Discipline's great, but it's not reliable for long term. Why? Because you are not. Because you're not a machine. Now don't get me wrong, discipline is crucial and it's the thing that's gonna get you started in the first period, help you put in the work when you don't feel like it and carry you through some difficulties. But the truth is that if you always have to push yourself and force yourself into work, you're doing something wrong entirely. Sometimes you're gonna feel exhausted but use discipline to put in the work, and sometimes you might get so mentally or even physically crashed for whatever reason that discipline is going to suffer too at this point. And plus, if you're some kind of perfectionist like I am, for example, it has the potential to hurt everything that you're doing, so you might as well drop everything that you're doing and forget about the thing altogether. You cannot, for example, get jacked by purely relying on discipline. Like, you have to love the thing at least to some extent, because dieting, meal prepping, training almost every single day, showing up for the boring cardio and abs day, and doing that for years is kind of difficult if you don't have at least some kind of love or even passion. Like, I'm gonna allow myself to use this word here. Now, the next logical question would be, if motivation and discipline are not reliable, then what is reliable? Systems, but not just any systems. Those that can provide us with endless progress, and yes, it's possible, and help us get unstuck whenever we need to. And the best part is that they can be applied to any area of your life. And in order to make that happen, you need to build a personal progress system. And listen, this is not some cookie cutter routine that you can steal from random YouTuber. It's a system that is rooted in you, into your goals, into your weaknesses, into your rhythms, into your tendencies, into your behaviors, habits, and all the rest of this. It is essentially built through your own experiences, through trial and error. And for those saying like, Nas, I don't have any experience, let me give you some reality check. Firstly, you have at least some of it. You're not a toddler. And secondly, you can develop it. How? Through blunt action and failure, or by learning from other people's mistakes. Section 2. Designed defaults. A really powerful method that I've seen a lot of high performance live by is what I call the designed defaults. And from my experience, it is the best progress system. Now let me show you what I mean by comparing it to motivation. You get inspired by a fitness reel and tell yourself, this week I'll hit the gym every day. You go Monday, Tuesday, then you're sore. And by Saturday, you completely forgot about the promise that you made at the beginning of the week. Now here's how it works with systems. You commit to training just 3 times a week. Let's say it's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 a.m. You lay your gym clothes out the night before and you treat it like a meeting with your future self. That way, it becomes normal. No hype, no burnout, just progress. Now, the main difference wasn't discipline here, it was systematization, because you just made the commitment to go to the gym at that exact time, you've scheduled it, you've put it into your calendar, you laid out the clothes the night before, you perhaps even decided what you're going to eat before and after the gym, then what you're going to do after you're done working out, who you're going to meet, where you're going to go. And so the point is that if you want this to work, you don't just promise to yourself that you're going to do something. You write out exactly how you're going to do it, where you're going to do it, what do you need to do it, and so on and so forth. You can design certain aspects of your life in the way that you don't need to put any effort to perform those habits anymore. Why? Because they became defaults. That's just what you do now. For me, going to the gym every single day almost, that's just what I do. I eat food, I drink water, I go to the gym. For me, it's just normal. But for some people, it's very strange, and for me, it was strange too at the start. But the more you do it, the more you get used to it, the more you systemize it, the more you include it into your life, the more it becomes normal for you too. And it's not just about the gym. It can be applied to your work, it can be applied to your studies, to your business, to your hobby, to spending time with your loved ones, and so on. And this is just one single example of a functioning systems on a very surface level. They can be very complex or as simple as this example. but most importantly, you can sustain them indefinitely. Now, of course, you cannot systemize everything in your life, otherwise it would become boring and overstructured. Like, those people who have fully booked calendar for every single minute for every day. They wake up at 5:35, they go to cold shower, it takes them 5 minutes, then they meditate for 15 minutes, then by 5:55 they have to sit at the desk and start working, then they work for 2.5 hours, then they eat for 15 minutes. Like, those people who overstructure everything. That's also one of the advices on self-improvement philosophy, like in this self-improvement space in general, that leads people to believe that self-improvement is a super difficult and horrible thing that they should do, otherwise they're going to be failures if they don't do it. Where obviously it's not that way, not even close. But unfortunately, some big YouTubers and influencers in the space have made the public believe that it is the case, and I was the part of that group who believed that that is the case. I used to hustle a lot every single day before I actually realized that this isn't just about discipline, and started making real progress. Like in the last 3 to 4 months of me not working as many hours as I used to work last summer, for example, I made a lot more progress in this period than I made in 6 or even 8 months prior to it, which was one of the things that taught me that maximization isn't a single best way to go about things. But getting back to the point of talking about systematization, you should not systemize everything, but if you can systemize certain areas of progress in your life is going to become so much easier, and most importantly, you're going to start enjoying something that you're doing, even if something that you do requires you to actually grind for 8 to 12 hours every single day. Alright, so one thing that is also required in order for you to sustain and do something that you've never done before is an identity shift. But the tricky part about self-belief is that to make that self-belief appear, you have to first build at least some kind of evidence through action and through iteration. Instead of saying, I'm trying to be more productive, you can say, I am more productive. Now, I don't want you to say this out loud and shout in the mirror every single morning, although that would probably help to some extent. But the main objective is to change how your mind perceives you, which is exactly what we're going to talk about in one of the next videos. And by the way, this is also something that my subscribers of a newsletter will see 1 week earlier than I'm going to post it on YouTube. So if you want to see it as fast as possible, go and subscribe to my newsletter. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty. How to build a personal progress system. This is the 5-step framework that I promised at the start of the video. Step 1. Evaluate and learn. Be brutally honest with yourself. Write down everything that you've tried in the past, what worked, what didn't work, why didn't it work. Write all of that down and put that list somewhere where you can see it. You can stick it on your wall, for example. The number one reason I kept failing to make real progress is that I refused to change my behavior. I kept repeating old patterns, hoping that they'll magically lead to different outcomes, but they never did. So ask yourself these 4 questions. Where did I actually make progress in the past? What exact actions led me to that breakthrough? What conditions made it easier? And what mindset did I have? And then I want you to ask yourself one more question, which looks like this. How can I recreate those conditions and make progress again instead of defaulting to what didn't work? And here are some of the most brutal lessons that I learned on productivity after trying virtually everything. Most advice is written by people who couldn't sustain it themselves. Systems that rely on motivation or willpower will collapse eventually. Your biology doesn't care how many Notion dashboards you made. Copying someone else's perfect routine usually backfires. The best system is the one you can keep doing when the life gets messy. Trial and error is undefeated. Built from data, not fantasy. Stop repeating what already failed you, and you're going to very quickly arrive to the place where the real progress starts. Step 2. Experiment on yourself. This is my favorite part, and that's something that I'm doing every single day. I love this thing. Try everything. Collect data, but understand that you are the lab. Your body is the lab. Your mind is the lab. You are the experiment. Once again, try everything. Wake up at 5 a.m., wake up at 10 a.m., wake up at 3 a.m. or whatever. Like, do some crazy stuff in order to see how your body and mind react to certain things. Because for many months, I used to live in this kind of boring self-improvement routine. Wake up at the same time, go to bed, do this action, then do this action, go to the gym, come back from the gym, and I never really experimented on myself. Then I tried to wake up at 5 a.m., then at 4:30, then I try to sleep in as much as possible to test if that's going to help me, if I'm going to recover like as good as I can. Try stimulating yourself to work out, try not stimulating yourself to do anything in a day. Try all of those things and see how your body reacts to different stuff. That's once again is where real progress starts, because when you collect data about yourself and you have this little library, this little book of knowledge about yourself, then you can be more flexible in essentially everything that you're doing. It's very, very powerful. Please don't underestimate this. Step 3, define the non-negotiable. Output. Now this is where clarity kills all of the excuses. You need a clear, measurable minimum output that defines success, no matter how you feel. I write 200 words per day. I post 3 pieces of content per week. I work out 5 times per week. And I don't want you to see those as goals. I want you to make them designed defaults, as we talked about at the start of the video. This is something that you want to do every single day, something that you want to make a part of you. And by the way, not exactly those habits that I mentioned, but the things that you know are going to help you to get to where you want to get to. Step 4, build a ritual to trigger the flow. This is something that I'm going to post a separate video about. This is a very cool thing, which I call the trigger stacking, but we're going to go more in depth in one of the next video about it. But essentially what it is that when you're doing some specific kind of routine, let's say, when you're drinking a specific kind of tea only before you go to training, let's say, I just keep bringing up gym all the time, but that's just an analogy that most people could probably understand. But if also, for example, you've been struggling to work on getting to the flow on whatever task, you can try and build a kind of trigger which will turn on your brain before you even start doing that thing. And step 5 is building a fail-proof floor. That's where most people fall off because they rely on ideal conditions, but you won't. You're going to build a fail-proof floor, which is essentially a bare minimum version of your habits that you can hit every single day, even on your worst days. Here are some examples. If you cannot write 1000 words, write 300. If you can do a full workout, do 10 push-ups at home and go on a walk. The goal is to stay in motion, no matter how small, because it's always better to do at least something rather than doing nothing at all.